This question is asking us about finding equations of lines parallel and perpendicular to a particular line. So it says consider the line with the equation -4y plus 3x equals 20. We want to give the equation of the line parallel to line 1, which passes through the point -10, 8, -8, and then the second part will be same thing but perpendicular. I'm going to label these as 1 and 2. But the first thing you want to do, we know to figure out how to figure out the slope of a parallel and perpendicular line, we need to figure out the slope of this. So what I like to do is rewrite the original -4y plus 3x equals 20 in slope-intercept form and y equals mx plus b form. And we do that by solving for y. Right, so we want to get y by itself. We can subtract the 3x to each side. To get the 3x away. Now I like to write the x in front sort of like this anyway. So this can be -3x plus 20. Right, one has x and one doesn't, so we can't combine them at all. And now that we have the y part by itself, we can divide by the -4 to actually get y. Now what I like to do is just divide everything by -4. That's what you have to do anyway, and that's the easiest way to visualize it. So divide everything by the -4. So what you'll see here is the negatives go away on the x part, and then over here the 20 and the 4 can simplify to 1 and 5. And we've got y equals 3x over 4. We would have plus 5 over 1, but it's negative, so it's -5. Remember, this is just the original line. And it's important now when we figure out parallel and perpendicular stuff is to point out the slope. What is the slope of this line? It is 3/4. It's what's multiplying x. All right, so now let's work on the actual problems. Number 1, we want to give the equation of the line parallel to this line, which passes through this point. Since it's parallel, we know that it means it has to have the same slope. It's going to have slope 3/4 and passes through the point -10, -8. Okay. Now once you're here, once you know the slope and a point it passes through, this is a problem you've worked earlier in the section. All right, we have y equals mx plus b, but we know m is 3/4 x plus b, and then we want to plug in our x and y. Plug in x equals -10 and y equals -8, and that'll let us solve for b. We got -10 equals 3/4 times -8 plus b. We can simplify a little bit because the -8, we can take the 8 out to get a 2 from the 4 to give us a 1. So we got -10 equals 3 times -2 plus b. 3 times -2 is -6. And then we can add the 6 to each side to get b by itself. And -10 plus 6 is -4. And that's our answer for this part. We're going to have the equation y equals 3/4x minus 4. So let's go ahead and write that in. And even though it doesn't look the same format, this is fine. Y equals 3/4x minus 4. You do not have to try to rearrange it to make it look like this again. So that's parallel. Now for perpendicular, We're still going to use the slope here. I'm going to erase the part we just worked on to make room. And then number 2, since we want perpendicular, the only thing that changes for our setup is the slope is the negative reciprocal. So we add a negative sign there because there's not one already, and we flip the fraction. So the slope of our line is negative 4 over 3, and it's going to pass through the point negative 10, negative 8. Right, but same thing. Once you have the slope, once you have the point it passes through, you just go through the process like you did before. We have y equals m, slope is negative 4/3 x plus b. Then we plug in our x and y value, which is negative 10 and y is negative 8. So we got negative 8 equals negative 4 over 3x plus b. And then we plug in our x and our y's. So x is negative 10 and y is negative 8. Whoops, I lost my train of thought for a second. I already did plug in the y value. I, for some reason, did not plug in the x value, which is negative 10. Right, now simplify. Negative 8 equals, this one doesn't simplify like the last one, negative 4 times negative 10 is 40 over the denominator of 3 plus b. Subtract the 40 over 3 from each side to get b by itself. And we have negative 8 minus 40 over 3 equals b. Now to simplify this, we get a common denominator. We multiply the 8 by 3 over 3. So negative 8 times 3 is negative 24 over 3 minus 40 over 3 equals b. And negative 24 minus 40 is negative 64 over 3 is our b. All right, so we've got our slope, negative 4/3. We now know the b value that goes with it. So the answer is y equals negative 4 over 3x minus 64 over 3. Right, so that is how we find the equation of lines parallel and perpendicular to some other line at a point.